Okay. What's going on, guys? I want to do a quick video today. I've actually done a lot of videos. I'm just kind of hammering out videos right now. I really haven't done a whole lot of editing yet because I'm getting ready to go back to work. 5 things I hate and 5 things I love about the new KTM Super Adventure 1290 Super Adventure S. So let's start with the things I hate about it. Which really it's not a lot, man. There's not a lot of things that I hate about this bike, so this is gonna be a tough one. But I will say one thing I do kind of hate about this bike is the temperature it gets to when you're riding, and it freaking gets hot, man. This is a hot riding motorcycle. See, the oil temperature right now is 179, and that's after shutting it off for, you know, a couple minutes now. It's a hot riding bike, man, for sure. This thing gets toasty, and especially in the summertime, but even in the fall, I've been noticing it getting real warm. So yeah, the riding temperature is definitely a con. I mean, it'll get up to like 210, which, you know, I know it's got a radiator and everything, but it's kind of like scary hot how it gets like that hot, you know what I mean? It's kind of scary, and you could feel it on your legs real good, like, especially. So yeah, riding temperature is definitely a con. I mean, it rides hotter than my CBR 929 like in town, and even like on the highway, the operating temperature, it's at like 178, 180 if I'm going quick on it. Like if I'm cruising at like 80 to 100 miles an hour, it's at around 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Whereas in you know, the CBR 929 at cruising temp, operating temp on that bike is roughly 177. So it runs cooler than this, which is crazy. But I guess, you know, that's what you get for performance, and I guess it's safe, or else the manufacturers wouldn't have made it like that. I just, you know, sometimes I get worried about it overheating, especially if I'm on it in the summer and I'm going through town. I get worried about that a little bit. All right, so yeah, operating temp is one of the things I can say I hate about this bike. Second thing I hate about this bike is that's a tough one. Like I said, I don't really hate much about it. I will say, when you get the luggage on, when you put the luggage on, one of the things that's difficult is getting on and off this bike, because it is such a tall bike. So I'm not necessarily saying like the ride height is negative, because it's not, because I do like the ride height for other things, which I'll go over here shortly. But I will say, like, getting on and off of it with the top rack on it, like the top box on the back, you know, a lot of times you have to like get on it like a dirt bike, where you're taking it and then you're stepping up and on and over, step over and on. And my wife has to get on it like the same way. And then to dismount it, it's the same thing. You step up and then off, and then there goes Siri fucking up my video. I'm gonna have to edit that out, stupid fucking Siri. Anyway, so yeah, the ride height when you have luggage and getting on and off the bike can be tricky. And sometimes if you're on like a road that's really uneven, like, and it's got high spots and low dips, I found that the ride height could cause you to fall over on the bike, because that almost happened to me. So yeah, I mean, I would say the ride height's a little bit of a con, but especially when you factor in luggage and a passenger. All right, the third thing I hate about the bike. See, I knew this was going to be a hard video. I knew it was going to be hard. Okay, so when I first got it, the key fob was kind of acting a little funny. But it was because of my own doing, so it's kind of my fault in a way. But basically what happened with the key fob is there's this little rubber thing, and I'm not going to take it apart, but there's this rubber thing on the inside, and that goes in between the housing and the battery, and it holds it against the connector very firmly. So if you don't have that on there, it kind of makes it a pain in the ass to start this bike, because you have to like basically hold the key right up against this to start the bike. You have to hold it right where this little icon thing is, right there. You got to hold it like right on there to start it, to lock it up, to do all that stuff. And so if the battery dies, it is kind of like a pain in the butt. With a functioning battery in it though, and that little rubber piece in there, it's fine. Like, I could hold it like in my pocket, and you see it starts right up, all right? Or it turns on, everything says ready to race, it gets ready to prime, and then you prime the fuel pump, right? Priming the fuel pump up, and then you start it. So yeah, the battery in there, or the key fob, it's kind of a drawback. And honestly, I don't like wireless a no like key. I don't like a bike that I can't like put the key in there and start the bike, like the CBR. I do like that about the CBRs. It has like little to no electronics, so it's foolproof and it's less shit to go wrong. Which brings me now if I didn't have a battery in here, that's one thing though. Like, if I didn't have a battery in the key fob, I could still start the bike. I just have to hold it right there. I could still lock the bike and start it, or unlock it and then start the bike up by holding this right against that little sensor, because it'll sense the microchip in there. Now, I've heard of people like other 1290 Super Adventure S owners having issues with the switch in here not working and malfunctioning. That really hasn't happened to me. The key fob itself malfunctioned, and like I said, it was to my own doing. Which this brings me to the last thing that I hate about the bike, is like all the electronics. That does scare me about this motorcycle, is there's so many electronics on it, and there's just so many things that could potentially go wrong, for one, and for two, the electronics interfere with the riding experience. And what I mean by that is you lose a lot of feedback that you get from riding on the road. Like with the CBR 929, like I said, it has no ABS, no traction control. It has nothing, right? It's just a raw motorcycle from like 2001. But I appreciate it because I feel connected to the road. I feel like there's no interference. I don't have any rider aids on that bike, so it's all on me. So I feel what the bike's doing, and I get a lot of input and feedback from the bike. Whereas in this, the electronics take all of that out. So yeah, I will say it is kind of it does hinder hinder me a little bit, and it is kind of a con, is there's so many electronics. However, if you look at the tricking strips, I mean, there's not that much, man. There's not that much. Which brings me to my 5 things I love about this bike. All right, so 5 things I love about it is, 1, the handling. This bike handles like a sports bike, and it handles effortlessly, and that's due to all the rider aids. And I think it's also due to the riding position, how high up the bike is. But it has cornering ABS, traction control, three or four different traction controls, wheelie control. It has all that stuff, and has cruise control. I love that. And so I guess, yeah, so anyways, handling, the bike handles awesome, man. It doesn't handle like a big giant adventure bike. It handles like a damn sports bike when you want it to. You put it in sports mode, stiffens up the suspension, and this thing will fly around corners with the best of them. Like, it handles very, very well with very little effort. Second thing I love about this bike is the looks. This thing looks amazing. It's such a badass looking bike because it's so unique. There's not a lot of bikes like it. You know, there's not a lot of bikes like it at all. So, like, when you see this thing going down the road, like, man, everyone looks at this bike. Everybody looks at this bike. I get so much attention. Even when we went down there to Bike Week, and it was mainly Harley Davidson riders, they were like, dude, what is that? What is that thing? And I was like, it's a KTM. And this one guy's like, KTM, like the dirt bike people? Because, you know, like, Harley guys are into Harleys and not much else. But yeah, I was like, yeah, man, they make motorcycles too, and they're all pretty badass. They got a MotoGP bike, bro. But yeah, man, the looks of this thing, I love the looks. I do, man. Some people hate it. I love the way this thing looks. Now, I will say, with the luggage on there, it looks kind of, I prefer it without the luggage, but, you know, obviously the luggage has its uses. So yeah, man, like that headlight's freaking nuts. I love, like, the accent, like how the running lights light up on it. I mean, that looks sick. That is sick looking. And then it has these cornering lights. That looks sick. When you take a corner, or you get your directionals on, man, this bike's awesome. So let's see, I've gone over, I love the things I love is the handling, the looks. Another thing I love is obviously that 1290 engine. That thing is insane. I love the personality of that engine. I love the torque of it, and the character of that engine is just, it's so unique because it's so usable in so many different instances. And what I mean by that is, if I put this thing in sports mode and I want to rip on it and pull wheelies and do crazy shit on it, I can. It turns it into a different engine. It's got like 160 horsepower stock and like over 100 foot-pounds of torque stock. And then I haven't even modded it, or I haven't even done the can yet. I haven't even put the tune on it yet. That's just stock from the factory, man. But if I put it into like touring mode and have a passenger and luggage, it's super comfortable and super manageable. Same thing if I put it on off-road mode or rain mode. This thing is just such a usable, nice engine, and that's why I ended up getting this over the S1000XR. Because I was looking at the S1000XR. I love an inline 4. They're great for performance, but this, I think the torque and the broad power band is just such a better bike for the purpose of like sport touring and even going off road, doing light off-road stuff. I think this thing nails it. What else? So I went over handling, styling, and then power, comfort. This thing's super comfortable. It's a very comfortable bike, even though that seat's a tad bit firm. It makes it very usable for different types of riding. But all in all, this is one of the best handling and most comfortable motorcycles I've ever owned. So comfort is a 10 on this thing in my book. And I've been on cruisers, I've been on sport bikes, and this is my first like sport touring adventure bike, and I'm telling you that this thing is so comfortable. That riding position is so good. Everything about this bike's great, and that suspension, the automatic suspension set up for comfort is great. So yeah, it's very comfortable. The fifth thing I love about this bike is the fact that it's got, I do like the electronics on it. I really do. So it's like a love-hate with the electronics. I love having cruise control. Cruise control is great. I love having adjustable suspension on the fly that has presets. That's one thing I liked about this bike over the Super Adventure R, is the fact that it had like, I could adjust suspension on the fly, and setting up the bike for me with luggage, for me and my wife, and for me and my wife with luggage, all those 4 modes is so easy to do. So the electronics really do make the bike shine. And like I said, I mean, look at those tires. You know, I mean, those things, I took it to the Twisties the other day, and I mean, I'm leaning this thing over like it's nothing. like it ain't nothing. And that's due to the electronics, I think, partly. I mean, the bike does all the work. So yeah, man, that concludes my video of the 5 things I love and the 5 things I hate about this bike. And the 5 things I hate, like I said, it's hard to come up with. I'm being real nitpicky. I really don't hate anything about the bike, but you know, everything's got its drawbacks and everything has its cons. But yeah, man, this is a great bike. It's an awesome bike. One of the best bikes I've owned ever. Hands down. All right, so now I'm gonna roll to the beach and